In the heart of ancient Egypt, where the sands whisper secrets of the past, one name stands shrouded in mystery: Anubis. The jackal-headed god of the afterlife, the silent watcher of souls, and the guardian of the dead. For thousands of years, Anubis has been a symbol of death, resurrection, and the great unknown beyond life. But who was he really? Was he merely a guide to the underworld, or did he hold secrets far greater than we ever imagined? Tonight, we unravel the myths, the legends, and the hidden truths of Anubis. His birth, his sacred duty, and the forgotten tales that whisper of forbidden knowledge and stolen immortality. This is the legend of Anubis, the god of the dead, the keeper of lost souls, and the master of the unknown. Are you ready to step into the darkness? The birth of Anubis, the lost child who became the guardian of the dead. In the heart of ancient Egyptian mythology, between the world of the living and the realm of the dead, Anubis was born into a tale of mystery, betrayal, and fear. His birth was not a mere event but a moment that changed the fate of gods and mortals alike. Nephthys, the goddess of shadows, lived in the palace of Set, the god of chaos and destruction. But she was not happy in her marriage, for her heart was drawn to its complete opposite, to Osiris, the symbol of life and order. On a fateful night, Nephthys disguised herself as Isis, the wife of Osiris, and deceived him. Osiris, unaware of the trick, unknowingly lay with her, and from this secret union, a child was born, a child with no place among the gods. When Nephthys realized the consequences of her actions, she was overcome with terror. How could she face Set, the ruthless god? How could she protect the child born of her deception? She had only one choice: to hide him. In the dead of night, Nephthys walked into the desert, where no one could hear the cries of an abandoned infant, and left her son among the dry sands, left him to face his fate alone. But fate had other plans. Anubis was not a mere mortal, but the son of two gods, surrounded by an unseen force that would shield him from death. And at that very moment, Isis, the goddess of magic and wisdom, was searching for a lost child, but she found something even greater. She found Anubis, the forsaken infant, left behind by his own mother. With her usual kindness, Isis took the child to her palace and raised him as her own. But even in her embrace, Anubis was different. He was a quiet child, his eyes reflecting wisdom beyond his years, as if his soul carried secrets unknown to anyone else. He was not like other children. He did not laugh much, nor did he cry like them. He was always deep in thought, as if listening to whispers unheard by others. Anubis grew up among the gods, yet he never felt like he truly belonged. He was not a sun god like Ra, nor a god of wisdom like Thoth, nor even a warrior like Horus. Instead, he felt an inexplicable pull toward death, toward the secrets buried in the sands, toward bodies that decayed and souls that endured. He wandered through temples, gazing at silent statues, questioning the fate of mortals, and pondering the meaning of the final journey. But this curiosity was not merely a personal desire, it was destiny calling. He was waiting for the moment he would understand his true purpose, the moment he would realize that his birth was not an accident but had been foreseen since the beginning of time. How did Anubis become the god of mummification? How did he become the guardian of souls in the afterlife? That is what we will uncover in the next chapter. Anubis and mummification, the keeper of the sacred ritual. As Anubis grew, his fascination with death deepened. While other gods ruled over the elements, the sky, and the earth, he was drawn to something more mysterious, the threshold between life and the afterlife. He did not see death as an end but as a transition, a sacred passage that must be protected and preserved. He wandered through tombs, observed the bodies of the departed, and listened to the whispers of spirits seeking their way. The gods took notice. Ra guided the living, Osiris ruled the dead, but there was no one to safeguard the passage in between. Anubis was given this sacred duty. He became the guardian of the journey, ensuring that the souls of the deceased would be properly prepared for the trials ahead. But how could one ensure safe passage to the afterlife? The body was more than just a vessel, it was a bridge. If it was left to decay, the soul could become lost, trapped between worlds. And so, Anubis devised a ritual so precise, so sacred, that it would be followed for thousands of years: mummification. The process was long and complex, a sacred art passed down from the gods. It began with purification. The body was taken to a special tent known as the Ibu, the place of cleansing. Priests, acting as Anubis' earthly hands, washed the body with palm wine and Nile water, purifying it from earthly corruption. Next came the most delicate step, removing the internal organs. The stomach, intestines, lungs, and liver were carefully extracted through a small incision on the left side of the abdomen. Each organ was then placed in sacred canopic jars, protected by the 4 sons of Horus. The heart, believed to hold a person's soul and memories, was often left in place, or, in some cases, replaced with a sacred scarab to aid in the afterlife. The brain, considered useless in the afterlife, was removed with a hooked instrument inserted through the nose, carefully extracting it piece by piece. This gruesome yet precise method ensured that the skull remained intact while eliminating decay. With the body emptied, the next step was preservation. The priests covered the corpse in natron, a natural salt found along the Nile, which absorbed moisture and prevented decomposition. For 40 days, the body lay untouched, slowly drying until it was ready for the next stage. Then, the priests removed the natron and anointed the skin with sacred oils, perfumes, and resins to restore flexibility and scent. The body was then wrapped in hundreds of linen strips, each inscribed with protective spells from the Book of the Dead. Between the layers, amulets were placed, charms of power, ensuring protection in the afterlife. Finally, the last ritual was performed, the opening of the mouth ceremony. Using a special blade, the priests touched the mouth, eyes, and ears of the deceased, symbolically restoring their senses so they could see, speak, and hear in the afterlife. This was the moment of rebirth, the final step before the soul embarked on its journey. And so, Anubis became the master of this sacred rite. He did not just watch over the dead, he prepared them for eternity. His hands touched pharaohs, priests, and warriors, ensuring that they would awaken in the next life, ready to stand before Osiris in the Hall of Judgment. But the journey was far from over. Anubis was not just the embalmer, he was the guide. And the souls he prepared would now face their greatest trial, the weighing of the heart. Anubis and the journey to the afterlife, the guardian of the scales. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not the end. It was merely the beginning of the soul's greatest journey. A journey filled with trials, dangers, and the final judgment that determined whether the soul would live forever in paradise, or be erased from existence. At the heart of this journey stood Anubis, the silent guardian of the dead, the one who guided souls through the darkness, ensuring that only the worthy passed into eternity. The perilous journey through the Duat. The ancient texts describe the Duat, the shadowy underworld, as a vast and ever-changing realm where time and space twisted unpredictably. It was said that souls had to travel through 12 gates, each representing an hour of the night, guarded by terrifying creatures and divine beings. The dead would encounter fire-breathing serpents, lakes of burning waters, and monstrous demons that would test their courage and purity. To survive this perilous voyage, the deceased needed more than bravery. They needed knowledge. This is why wealthy Egyptians were often buried with the Book of the Dead, a sacred collection of spells, prayers, and incantations designed to help them overcome the obstacles of the underworld. Those who could not afford such texts relied on their loved ones to inscribe spells on their tombs, believing that the words themselves held power. Yet, no matter how well prepared a soul was, there was one final trial that none could escape, the weighing of the heart. The Hall of Two Truths, Anubis and the Final Judgment. At the heart of the Duat stood the Hall of Two Truths, a vast celestial courtroom where the gods assembled to witness the soul's ultimate test. The air was thick with divine energy, the walls lined with hieroglyphs recording the deeds of mortals. And there, in the center of it all, stood the golden scales of justice, gleaming under the eternal light of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and order. Beside the scales stood Anubis. His jackal-like eyes were unreadable, his black form blending into the shadows, yet his presence was undeniable. He was the silent watcher, the gatekeeper of truth, the one who would determine whether a soul was worthy of eternal peace. The deceased's heart was placed on one side of the scale, while on the other rested the feather of Ma'at, a symbol of absolute truth and universal balance. This was the ultimate test. If the heart was light, free from the burdens of sin and dishonesty, the scales would remain balanced, and the soul would be granted passage into Aru, the paradise known as the Field of Reeds. But if the heart was heavy, weighed down by deceit, greed, or wrongdoing, the balance would tip, and the punishment was swift. Anubis would step back, and another being would emerge. The devourer of the unworthy, Ammit. The devourer of souls. The great beast feared even by the gods. A monstrous entity with the head of a crocodile, the torso of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, the three most dangerous creatures of the Nile. She did not negotiate. She did not forgive. If a soul was found unworthy, she would lunge forward, her massive jaws snapping shut, swallowing the condemned heart whole. To be devoured by Ammit was a fate worse than death. It meant total annihilation, no afterlife, no chance of rebirth, nothing. The soul would cease to exist, erased from history, never to be remembered again. Anubis, the silent guardian of souls. Anubis did not celebrate when a soul was saved, nor did he mourn when one was lost. His duty was absolute, his role unwavering. He was not a god of mercy or vengeance. He was the enforcer of balance, the guardian of sacred law. Yet, in the hearts of the ancient Egyptians, he was more than just a judge. He was a protector, a guide, the first and last face a soul would see as it stepped into the unknown. His black jackal form became a symbol of safety, a reminder that even in death, one was never truly alone. To this day, the legend of Anubis endures. His name whispered in the dark corridors of ancient tombs, his image carved into stone by those who believed in his power. And as long as there are those who seek the truth, who walk the path between light and shadow, Anubis will remain, watching, waiting, ensuring that the balance of the universe is never disturbed. The Legend of Anubis and the Theft of the Book of Eternal Life. In the heart of the ancient world, where the boundary between life and death was sacred, a legend was whispered among priests and scribes, a tale of forbidden knowledge, of a power so great that even the gods themselves guarded it with vigilance. At the center of this legend was a book, said to be written by Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic. It was the Book of Eternal Life, a manuscript that contained secrets capable of defying the natural order, granting divine knowledge and even the ability to escape death itself. This book was hidden deep within the underworld, beyond the reach of mortals. Or so it was believed. But there was one man who dared to challenge this divine decree. A sorcerer whose name was long erased from history, for it was a name cursed by the gods themselves. He was no ordinary man. His knowledge of magic surpassed that of the greatest priests, and his hunger for power knew no bounds. He was obsessed with a single goal, to claim the Book of Thoth and bend the forces of life and death to his will. Under the cover of night, beneath the pale glow of a crescent moon, he began his dark ritual. He gathered ancient relics, whispered incantations forgotten by time, and opened a gateway to the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. As the air around him twisted and turned, he stepped through the veil separating the world of the living from the realm of the dead. The underworld was a realm unlike any other, a place of shadowed halls and endless deserts, where souls were judged and their fates decided. Great serpents slithered in the darkness, monstrous beasts roamed the dunes, and rivers of fire burned with an unholy glow. But the sorcerer did not falter. He knew that at the very heart of this realm lay the sacred chamber where the Book of Eternal Life was kept, surrounded by eternal flames that no mortal could pass through. Yet the sorcerer was prepared. He carried with him ancient spells stolen from temple scrolls, magic that allowed him to cloak his presence and bend the elements to his will. As he approached the chamber, he whispered the forbidden words, and the flames parted before him like a river splitting at the command of a god. The book was within his grasp. But just as his fingers brushed against the sacred pages, the air around him grew heavy. A low growl rumbled through the chamber, sending a chilling vibration through the stone walls. The guardian of the underworld had arrived. From the shadows emerged Anubis, his jackal eyes burning like twin suns, his presence exuding a power beyond comprehension. His towering figure cast a long, menacing shadow over the trembling sorcerer. "You dare to steal what belongs to the gods." Anubis's voice was a thunderous echo, shaking the very foundation of the underworld. The sorcerer, realizing that he had been discovered, turned and ran, clutching the book to his chest. He weaved through the labyrinth of the Duat, his heartbeat a frantic drum, his breath ragged with fear. But no mortal can outrun a god. With a swift motion, Anubis raised his scepter, and the ground beneath the sorcerer cracked open. Dark tendrils emerged from the abyss, wrapping around his legs, pulling him into the depths. He screamed, but his voice was lost in the howling winds of the underworld. The book slipped from his grasp, floating back to its rightful place. Anubis gazed upon the trembling sorcerer, his eyes filled not with anger, but with judgment. "You sought to defy the balance of existence," he said. "Now, you shall suffer its eternal consequences." And with that, the sorcerer was cursed for eternity. He would not be granted the mercy of death, nor the peace of the afterlife. Instead, he was condemned to wander the underworld, lost in its endless corridors, trapped between life and death, forever seeking an escape that would never come. The legend of Anubis and the stolen Book of Eternal Life became a warning, whispered across generations. A tale that spoke of the price of greed, the wrath of the gods, and the inescapable power of fate. For some knowledge is not meant for mortals, and those who dare to challenge the divine order will pay an eternal price. the story of Anubis in the restoration of Osiris. When the gods still ruled and destiny was written in the sands, chaos erupted with a single, devastating act. Set, the god of chaos and destruction, murdered Osiris, tearing his body to pieces and scattering it across the barren deserts of Egypt. Amid this profound sorrow, Isis, the devoted wife of Osiris, along with her sister Nephthys and a loyal cadre of priests, set forth on a desperate quest. They collected every fragment of Osiris's dismembered body, driven by the hope of restoring order and rekindling life where death had reigned. But the task was monumental. How could one mend a god shattered by betrayal? It was then that Anubis, the revered god of embalming and guardian of the dead, stepped forward. With unwavering determination and sacred knowledge, Anubis assumed the crucial role. He cleansed each fragment with holy water and aromatic oils, invoking ancient incantations known only to the priesthood, purifying Osiris's remains from earthly decay. Then, with meticulous care, Anubis began the art of mummification, a ritual that would halt decay and preserve the divine essence for eternity. Each organ was delicately removed and placed into sacred canopic jars, while the heart, believed to hold the very memory of life, was guarded as if it were the key to resurrection itself. The final, most revered ceremony was the opening of the mouth. With a sacred blade in hand, Anubis touched Osiris's lips, eyes, and ears, symbolically restoring his senses so that his spirit might rise anew in the realm of the afterlife. Through these divine rites, Osiris was reborn, not merely as a fallen god restored to life, but as the eternal ruler of the underworld, a symbol of the endless cycle of death and rebirth that defined the cosmos. In this act, Anubis not only mended a broken god but reaffirmed the cosmic order, ensuring that death was not an end, but the beginning of a sacred journey. His legacy endures, a timeless reminder that in the balance of life and death, even the shattered pieces can be brought together to create a new beginning. What do you think? Is this restoration an emblem of eternal hope, or a testament to the unyielding power of fate? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more timeless legends and mysteries.